Welcome, everyone, to the C-Suite Marketing Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host. And today we have a super interesting conversation and guest with us. We have on Missi Carmen. Now, Missi, you're the CMO at Spirion, and I'd love to know a little bit more about what you're doing at Spirion. But what we're going to be talking about today is how to hit all the right metrics that really matter, not only to marketers, but to the organization and our success. Because what we used as KPIs, what we used as metrics before, and what we should be thinking about and looking at in the future has dramatically changed. And you're going to talk a lot today about things like operational marketing and reshaping really how marketing should be perceived. And I'm going to read from something here because you gave me really good notes and I want to get it right. But you're kind of called a builder internally and for reshaping how marketing operates and reorganizes the functions of revenue operations and sales. So we're going to unpack that big time today. But if you could, maybe before we do that, just explain a little bit more about your background and what you're doing at Spirion.
Sure. Thank you. And thanks for the invitation to be here today. It is definitely a thing for me to want to change the perception of marketing. And to give you a little background about who I am and where I come from, I think that you'll see that that's exactly what I've been doing in my entire career. From a personal level, I'm the firstborn, I'm the first grandchild, I'm the first to go to college, both in my family and extended family. But when we take a look at my background itself, I also had a lot of firsts there as well. For Baltimore-based brands like Under Armour, M&T Bank, and Agora, I was the first hire for SEO. For Starmark, it's just a Florida-based agency focused on tourism and hospitality. I was their first ever VP hired to manage strategy, analytics, and technology. And for large BPO brands like Sykes, Sitel, which is now Foundever and Concentrix, for all of those, I was hired as their first ever digital and technical leader to lead integrations and digital transformation. So there's a lot of firsts that have allowed me then to introduce to organizations a different perspective on what marketing can offer, marketing operations, revenue operations, and really anything that can improve the customer experience. So a lot of my background really focuses on using things like tech stacks, pushing the boundaries of Gen AI. I just really want teams to see that we can make marketing smarter, more efficient, and more agile.
Well, I'm glad you're here because, and I'm going to speak for the community. I've interviewed over 100 B2B CMOs, CROs, CEOs over this last year, and I will tell you this: we're a little bit intimidated by the continual changes, right, in technology, what we need in our tech stack. What is Gen I? How do we apply it? How do we use best practices? It all just seems to be changing so quickly. So this is a very pertinent conversation we're about ready to have. And maybe that's a good segue, right, into talk to us a little about your idea of technology and the integration into marketing and what we need to be thinking about and doing.
So when we talk about integrating marketing with technology, and this goes beyond what we're considering just marketing. Marketing can own operations, revenue operations, demand, customer success. There's a lot of things that marketing can do there. But what really has to happen is that we need to integrate technology at the right stage, at the right time, really to make the buyers that are coming in and hitting those great touch points with us, we're making their experience with us more efficient, more memorable, getting them to where they need to go. And a lot of that's often, rooted in just having that operational foundation. More plainly said, it's about making sure that all the things that we create and we put in front of customers and buyers are used and touched and considered. And just making sure that we're investing in that right technology because our buyers are then getting to where they need to go and making that final conversion.
So I have to ask you, what are some of your favorite technologies in your tech stack, right? That you just wouldn't want to live without. And this isn't a commercial for anybody, but we're kind of trying to understand a bit more in our priorities, right? What are some of the technologies if I took away, you'd be like, no, Steve, stop.
Obviously the first one that comes to mind is your CRM, right? And your marketing operations platform, whether it's Marketo or HubSpot. But other things that I can't live without anymore is what I would consider sales intelligence. So something like Sixth Sense or even Zoom Info's new advanced features with Microsoft Copilot and intent data. I also love Path Factory. They have something called Web Content Personalization, which is an AI feature. It really takes a look at your website, your content, user behavior, and then suggests what people would like to read next, or also consider net in a couple of plugins that you can apply to your site. So chatbot would be nice, but chatbots, you have to have a really good playbook driven on intent and other things. The last thing I love is also another sales intelligence platform. I love Salesloft. Some people also like Outreach. And then here at Spirion, we're really big believers in using Gong throughout the organization as a great library of information to learn more about our customers and our prospects. So there's a little marketing ops there, a little rev ops there, but then you've got broader tools that support the CS team reaching out on Salesloft and us listening to professional services on Gong. There's a lot of touch points that we can use that tech stack for to improve the customer experience.
So how does that then transition from, I guess, how to use, right? How to apply this, like what you call kind of the strong operational foundation. You've got that tech stack. Now, how do you put it into operation for you?
Um, Starting off, obviously, you need to know what it is that you're trying to achieve. I have always advised teams don't go out and buy technology, but more or less, what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to solve for? And that's going to let us know a little bit more about what is that technology that we need at the right stage. And then you can then apply things from there to improve that experience that you're trying to solve for. But if we take a look at a that have raised their hands for the tool that are actually
Hey, can
using
I
it.
say we gotta take a cut. You froze for a minute.
Okay.
Like the
Yeah.
last 15 seconds or so. So I
So
just want
ask
to,
it again. Let
yeah,
me yeah, I'm checking. There we go. I am the priority Wi-Fi holder of the house.
all right. So what we're just talking about is like how you put it into place, right? How do you take the tech stack, the operations, and how do you put it into place so it's used for you? And so you could just start from there if you wanted to.
How do you take that tech stack and put it into place? My first rule of thumb is you don't buy a piece of technology, but you rather go to the business and say, what are we trying to solve for? That's going to involve multiple departments coming together. It could be sales and customer success and operations, all saying, I would really like to hear more of this, see more of that, execute more of that. Sometimes it involves us all also consolidating our budgets in order to get a tool. The rule is once you know what the business needs, you need to purchase a tool that solves for more than one problem. Because if not, singular use technology is of no use in my tech stack in my entire career. It has to be able to spread across multiple departments. We can show a bigger impact to the organization and metrics that matter when multiple teams are finding value in that technology. So we have buy-in, we have a singular goal, and now we have uncovered that technology. The most important thing then is going to be the 90-day rollout. And that's where a lot of companies struggle is they then go and invest, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, and they expect this kickoff to happen. And then all the teams are successful. So what I usually suggest is to do like a 90-day report card. It's a check-in along the way of the value that we're getting out of the technology. And at the 90-day mark, do we have the business users buy-in? Are the technical components fully integrated? Does each department understand how this is going to help them meet the goals that we originally identified in the beginning? And then long-term, we also have to look at frequency of use, frequency of adoption, because this means that the investment for the business was justified. And it can also then roll it up, can impact your customer acquisition costs.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what happened. I just checked my connection. I'm at about 100 megabyte per second right now.
Yeah. That
But
time of day.
yeah, I don't know what's happening. I usually don't. There's not usually this kind of interruption. I don't have this, but I think what we need to start over again, but not all the way back, right? Just where you started talking about how you needed to like roll out and reevaluate after 90 days. I think that would be a good place to pick it back up.
So once you have the tool in house, what we like to really take a look and consider at is the 90 days of implementation. How have we rolled it out across multiple teams? What does that report card look like? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? At the end of those 90 days, asking those business owners, have you fully completed your training? Asking the technical owners, is the tool, the platform fully integrated across multiple teams? Are we seeing that data? Are we able to then execute and move forward? But we also need to collect feedback from those users. You can't set it and forget it. You can't bring in a tool and just be like, have a good time. But long term, I really suggest that business owners look at feature adoption and frequency of use of any technology that they're going to bring on, because that's going to justify the investment that you as an organization placed on that technology. And investment in technology impacts your customer acquisition costs. It can improve your ROI. It could make your CFO happy, and it could also make your board happy.
So we talked at the very beginning about, identifying the metrics that really matter. So you've got this tech stack, you're putting it into operations, you're evaluating it all the way through. Maybe some of those are some of the metrics that you're talking about, user acquisition costs. Like, what are some of the metrics that you track that you think are the most important?
Yeah, I look beyond those vanity metrics and the creativity metrics. We don't look at things necessarily about how many pieces of content did we produce, but rather we look at things of the user engagement across an entire content experience. Did we increase the time on that experience itself? For calls for customer success teams, we use things like Ask Nicely, but we also listen to those calls on Gong. And we can then evaluate the metric of the length of the call, the tone of the call, the personalization of the call, listening for that little success criteria of, was the customer's intent happy? What was the tone of them? Those are the kind of things that we are starting to shift over to, in addition to the regular things like web traffic and conversion metrics, and obviously pipeline. But I like to look a little bit deeper, be more scientific, and explain to the board and the rest of the executives, why are these the metrics that matter? Why are these telling us a story that our customers are unhappy? The product's not being adopted versus, look, we have 50% increase to the website. What does that mean to anybody? So,
I like the word you used in their story. And the reason why I like it a lot, I mean, not only as marketers, we're supposed to be good storytellers, right?
mm,
People remember things 22 times more when you tell it in a story form. Now, that has huge application, right, for the whole marketing and sales process, but also what's the story of how marketing is impacting the pipeline and how it's being enabling the sales team, and what are we learning from all of that? All that data has to be put into a story,
mhm.
and it has to be told in a way that, yes, boards, they love, data, they love numbers, they love KPIs, and how we're, lowering customer acquisition costs, how we're, exceeding our quotas, all those kinds of things.
Mhm.
But there's always a story behind it. And so
Yeah.
how do you use all this to be a good storyteller?
So the way that I'm using the variety of metrics that we're talking about is to explain to not just the sales team, but also to customer success support and the board that buying behavior is no longer linear, that it's not just going from point A to point B. It's changing the perception of what marketing can do with the stories that we are telling. So I think it was McKinsey that came out and explained that the buying behavior isn't linear anymore. Buyers now have bigger buying committees that are impacting their ability to make decisions. So they're having to go back and research something that they touched 6 months ago, or they're going to have to go dive in and watch this video 6 more times and collect more questions from that buying committee. That is really then telling my board that it's not an MQL came in and an MQL converted into an opportunity, but rather this account came back 6 times over the course of 3 months. We had 4 conversations that lasted X amount of times. These people attended these 5 webinars. The story that we're telling is look at the increase in engagement, look at the increase in activity. There is intent there. There is information that's being sought there. And if we change our perception to be a value-based model, trying to help them get that information, that's the story I'd much rather us tell than here, have an MQL and let's just go ahead and convert it.
Yeah, the days of throwing the MQL over the wall and the
God, I
silo.
hate those MQLs.
Your turn. Baton passed, right?
Yeah, that's the way it was perceived, is it's now your turn. But if we, and I say we being the broader scope of marketing, bring to customer success, bring to sales, and bring to operations and support teams, your customer has come to the site 3 more times this week, and they attended last week's tech talk, and they just went and engaged with this piece of content. When was the last time you support team talked to your customer? And they're like, oh, you're right. I should reach out to them. Something is happening over there. Let me go check on them. And so I like to change the perception that my team is more about giving that information and that intelligence from all the things that we've created to help then the rest of the teams meet our customers where they are.
Right. So here's what I love about what you said there is that companies, all companies in general in the B2B space, 30 to 40% of their new revenue should be coming from existing clients.
Oh, yeah.
But we spend so much time focused on new logos, right? And what you're just talking about there is an empowerment of a customer success team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And giving them the reason why they should have resetting their priorities, right? Customer success is not about answering the questions when they come in, right? It's also about understanding what they're looking for, what they should be looking for, understanding their needs in total, just the way that we try for a new prospect, right?
Mm-hmm.
We try to be that trusted advisor, right? We should never stop doing that, right? Just because the deal got closed doesn't mean that they're not still trying to seek success, greater success in their job, their role, their company, right? I actually spoke to a woman who her customer success team closed the first 8-figure deals, and the revenue attribution to customer success that individual team members was 15 times that of the average salesperson.
That's great.
What you're talking about and enabling there is absolutely huge. And combining that with like the gong calls and things, that's the color commentary. That's the story that needs to be created.
You're so right.
Want to reiterate that because that's what my takeaway was from what you were saying here.
And you look at so many of these, even new job postings for CMOs, CROs, and CX leaders, and a lot of it's focused on new logo pipeline, driving demand in the market. Why aren't we investing a lot of that same intent data and energy into the customers who already know our product, they already know us, let's just make it a better experience. Derek Meeks wrote a book on the importance of building out a community, but also how difficult and time consuming it can be. But if you invest into a community or creating memorable experiences for your customers, what about word of mouth? What about repetitive buying cycles? What about predictable renewal revenue? I don't know about you, but those are metrics that I kind of like to work with.
I like the NRR scores, right? Like this net recurring revenue, and that the customers that we land, that expand and renew,
Mhm.
that's our ICP.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what to emulate, right? And so the learning from that group and how we can expand means how we can talk to them, and actually extends back into the new logo development because
Mhm.
we're learning, right? We're learning how to talk. We're learning how to adapt. We're learning how to expand. We're learning how to be more relevant. So I love this, but I also don't want to get away from a part of the conversation that I know was excited to have with you. And that was just like the efficiencies that you can get
Mhm.
through agile processes and Gen
Mhm.
AI, because you can get kind of overwhelmed telling the story that we've just been talking about here, right? It's a big job.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm going to turn it back over to you.
So whether you were a team of 5, a team of 2, or a team of 250, having worked with multiple sizes in BPO and B2B SaaS, I've always been a huge fan of Agile for marketing, especially because I think that it really does lead to teams to be more efficient. We can pivot a lot quicker. We're planning a lot better. We know what we can deliver for our customers, for stakeholders, and for requests. Agile is just the way that teams should be run instead of just traditional marketing models where they're like, let's do 5 quarters of planning. Agile says what's working, what is not working, and what is the feedback that we're getting on what's being put into market. Now, you combine that with something with Gen AI, and I'm talking about using Gen AI within your marketing tech stack, whether that's an existing feature or using base models of AI like Claude or Jasper or even ChatGPT. What you're really doing is you're planning for input and you're planning for output based on what your team is capable of, based on what the requests are, and you're making the team work smarter, not just harder, and showing a really good impact that marketing has on the whole organization, not just new logos, but rather collaborating with customer success for gong call FAQ development or improvements to tech stack operations. There's a lot. But by having Agile, knowing what I'm doing in 2 weeks and knowing the impact that it's having, I'm not going to be spinning my wheels again. I'm going to know that these are the right stories with the right team, the right use of AI, and then the right metrics because we do our retros.
And that helps too, doesn't it? It helps in terms of prioritization, because
Yeah.
we get things thrown at us, projects all the time, requests all the time, right? And this kind of a process and prioritization helps us understand what are the things we should be taking on.
Mhm.
What are the things that we actually need to say no? That's not a problem.
Exactly. What is sucking up our time? Booking your team at 75% capacity allows you that 25% of flexibility to take on those last minute requests. But I really like what you just said. It empowers teams to say, no, we can't do that right now because it will impact X, Y, and Z. But we will plan for it in the backlog and we will work with you on a due date that makes the most sense. So teaching teams to say no, but is also something that I think a lot of marketers are a little leery of as well.
Right. But in an agile process, in cross-functional, um, there is one plan, right? And
Mhm.
there is one set of priorities. And so, that helps as well. I want to go back to what we were talking about, working with the customers, really understanding those that are expanding, that are renewing, that's truly your ICP. You've got a really good perspective on just understanding the ICP, how to do that, and why it's so important and a driver of overall success in the business. So I wanted to give you time to talk to that a little bit.
So one way that we were better to able to understand the ICP actually is through AI. So we create our own GPTs here at Spirion because our focus is to protect sensitive data and help companies discover it no matter where it is and then classify it and remediate it. It's really about protecting the sensitive data of our customers, our community, and then everyone on the planet. So when we built out these GPTs for our team to understand our ICP, we wanted to understand have they changed over the last 2 to 3 years? Has it become more difficult for them to have adoption, advocacy, rolling out technology? So by removing all that PII, we ended up using our own GPT and uploaded some information regarding our traditional ICP documentation, how information gleaned from inbounds and qualified opportunities were fed, and then also just the information, not the people, but why did someone leave us? Why did someone renew? Why did someone not renew? Taking the reasons that marketing's always collecting and then moving all of that up Eddie. So that's what we've been doing with the model a little bit there and spitting out content.
You froze again. I apologize. Right as you were saying, we take Chat GPT and then we move that up and then we froze.
Okay,
Sorry.
hold on. Yeah, I'm at 858 megs right now.
I have no idea. I'm a little more rural, but I'm at 100 megs. That's like plenty to be doing a video.
Yeah.
I have no
Yeah.
idea. You know,
Okay.
I was about ready to go over to Riverside, but the problem with Riverside is they had really, really bad backgrounds
Yeah.
and not everybody, like when we're working out of the house, a lot of our guests, you know, they really want to use these backgrounds and it was really pixelated around everybody's head. So I haven't done that yet, but anyways, I digress.
No, I love that we have the ability to pause and do this the right way.
Yes.
I'll just yell at my husband for sucking up bandwidth.
All right, I'll let you kind of dive back in so we can make the edit really easy on this. But you were just talking about using your own chat GPTs and you would just conclude on kind of everything that you put into it. So therefore you can, and then that's where we started to freeze.
Absolutely. So by building our own GPTs that we can share around our organization with customer success, with sales or marketing, we're creating a GPT that's informed on our information, our perspective, our buyers' needs, our buyers' issues and concerns. And using things like AI to create patterns, to find some repetitive use cases and also just hand raising issues, it just makes us, again, more efficient. We're operating smarter. And then we give that information out to our teams and say, this is what we're hearing. Sales, you need to pivot a little bit in your prospecting. CS, you need to tweak a little bit how you're onboarding because they're getting confused. Using things like Gong to look for those takeaways or also what the customers are saying on the calls. You don't have to use your own GPT, but using a little bit more of that built-in Gen AI use case, you might learn more about your ICP. It's going to change the old model of who's your influencer, your buyer, your decision maker. I have a hard time sitting in documentation that was built 3 years ago because everything changes.
Well, here's the thing, right? That I could see this model really helping out with is there are hundreds and hundreds of conversations. I mean, you're talking about just Gong alone, right? For somebody to be able to listen, understand, and prioritize what's happening, distill that into key takeaways or action steps for this group versus this group versus this group. That's why it was never being done before, right? Gong's been around for a long time. We haven't used Gong the way that we're talking about since Gen AI, right? Since ChatGPT. So I think this is one of the most, your ICP is the highest authority in the company, right? And the
But
more we
doesn't
know,
their job change? Doesn't their buying decisions
yes,
change? Doesn't market conditions change for them? Competitors change for them? They're telling us this.
right,
They're showing us this.
right.
Why aren't we paying attention and using AI to help us with that quick summary, that quick takeaway, and that quick dissemination of information out to the team saying, we have actions to take. Let's take them right now.
I have to tell you, I usually ask at the end of the podcast, what's the most important takeaway that you want people to know as a result of this? I'm going to say that's mine, right? The idea that we need to be much smarter about how we are getting input from our ICP, how we're, understanding that input and making that input actionable for the different departments that we interrelate with. You know, uh, years ago, Gartner had talked about that chief marketing officers need to be more like chief customer officers.
Mhm.
Like we just need to have a really, really innate understanding of our customers and their changing needs to your point of view, right? So this is one of the most phenomenal ways that I think we've had ever as CMOs in order to collect this information, understand, and act on it in a way that they really feel like we care, we understand. And that goes into our last section because that experience of working with us and them truly, genuinely feeling like we get who they are and who their needs are, there's all kinds of Gartner, again,
Mhm.
studies, McKinsey, that have talked about the number one competitive advantage for companies today, B2C and B2B, is the experience that we create for our customers. That CX is actually the number one competitive advantage for
Mhm.
companies.
Yep. Yep.
If that's the case, we have to understand our ICP. We can't afford to have a superficial understanding.
Mhm.
So I just espoused all my point of views. Tell me what you're thinking, right? About
I
everything we've just been talking about here.
Yeah, and I read of those same studies, and Salesforce did one as well, and they found that 76 in B2B buyers, they want a consistent experience across marketing, sales, and support. So we got to listen to them. And it isn't just about putting out that ICP for new logo, but is that ICP still the person that we're going to talk to for onboarding, that we're supporting when we receive technical support tickets, when we're thinking of a product roadmap? Have we thought about our ICP and their changing behaviors and market conditions and whatever they're facing? We don't. We're selfish as businesses and we go back to me, and my product. But a lot of times we need to change and remember that those are the people that bought the product. And let's create that experience for them that's going to make them want to stick around and tell another great story to somebody else.
Because in the end, right, there's as the buying group is expanding in the last 10, 15 years, 3 to 4-fold over what it used to be, the amount of competitors that we all have is equally expanding. And in fact,
Mhm.
on average, around 20 different competitors. So the thought that we're going to long-term differentiate based on product isn't going to happen,
No.
right? Long term, we can differentiate on how easy it is to do this, right? How easy it is
Mhm.
to work together as a partner. That's what's going to really be the differentiator. That's what's going to keep you. Bad CX can kill deals with great product driven companies.
Mhm.
I think it's just something to remember. Um, and even though that I said here's what I think is the most important takeaway, I would like to ask you now your opinion out of everything that we've talked about here. What is the single thing that you think is most important for the audience to be taken away from our conversation today?
So I would say that for me, the most important takeaway is that C suites need to be focused more on operations versus just creativity. Marketing is complex. Sales and customer success are also going to be complex. But if you focus on that operational foundation of connecting marketing to sales, to customer success, and to support through technology or even just process handoff, feedback loops, you're really talking about how an organization is seamless in growing together and creating a great experience for your customers, improving ROI. Not about this department, or this department. Operational efficiency is about an entire organization. And I really think people need to turn their heads slightly and just gut check. Is that in place? Are we using it the right way? Could there be some improvements there? And if so, that becomes the leaping point of building a great brand, being in the customer mindset, changing the competition. But you got to start with your foundation first.
Absolutely. Well, I have a feeling we could go on for another few hours here, but I also know that people are going to have questions. And would it be appropriate if we gave out a link to your LinkedIn profile so that people could reach out to you with their questions?
Absolutely happy to.
Fantastic. Well, Missy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights and your point of view. Just greatly appreciated.
Thank you.